Hello, everybody. I'm back, and my name is Phúc, and I will continue the analysis of the character Suzaku of the anime called Geass. And this will be part two of the analysis. First off, I would like to share my screen with everyone. All right, so now I would like to continue what I stopped before in my part one video. So I think I stopped at the event rescuing Colonel Todo, right? So actually I want to clear up a little bit confusing things is that rescuing Colonel Todo. This is the event where Zero and the Black Knights went to rescue Colonel Todo. That it doesn't mean that Suzaku was the one who does the rescuing. But this is the analysis of Suzaku. I just want to clear it up because then most of the events happened was because Zero he has a lot of plan to fight against Britannia, and whenever Zero appeared, usually Suzaku would also be there. So mostly I also analyze Suzaku based on the timeline of Zero's action. That's the reason why some of the events name here kind of very similar to the events of the analysis of Lelouch. So after the event of Zero rescuing Colonel Todo, uh, Suzaku became Euphemia's personal knight. So So I believe that during the reason why she chose Suzaku to be the knight, to be her knight, was that probably she believed that Suzaku also carried the same ideology like herself, is that to create a world without war, right? So so first, remember, Euphemius and Suzaku first met, and they also got to rescue Jeremiah, right? So that was their first encounter. But during that time, Suzaku already voiced out that he wants to create a world without war, but he doesn't know how to do it. And Princess Euphemia was also confused about how to make that world happen as well. But throughout the entire series, both Euphemia and also Suzaku figured out how to, create that world. And Euphemia's action of making Suzaku her personal knight is also kind of like a first step towards that direction. And so so the problem here when Suzaku became a knight of Britannia, of a royal knight in the Britannian system. So I've also mentioned in the analysis of Lelouch is that Suzaku is originally Japanese, right? But the thing is, if he, as a Japanese, becomes a Britannian knight, it kind of it so that action is kind of goes against the value of the Black Knights movement because the Black Knights, their main objective was to fight against the Britannian system, right? So basically, Suzaku is kind of like, yeah, it's kind of like an obstacle right there. So he's a Japanese, but he becomes the royal knight of the Britannian system. So remember the journalist Dethard? Yeah, so Dethard, who belongs to the Black Knights army, he proposed an idea to Lelouch to kill Suzaku in order to, to strengthen their ideology of the Black Knights to fight against Britannia, right? But Lelouch didn't let that happen because obviously Suzaku is his friend. I guess that is the surface. Maybe that's one of his ideas. And also, Colonel Todo and Mr. Ogi, who used to be the leader of the resistance, both of them also rejected the idea of killing someone who doesn't have a weapon. So obviously, the third idea was objected. But Lelouch still planned to capture Suzaku to convince him to join the Black Knights. So what happened is that according to their own source of information, the Black Knights kind of know that Princess Euphemia and of course Suzaku, now her personal knight, will go to Shikine Island in order to meet a member of the royal family. I think that is the highest chance is Prince Nigel, since he later also arrived at the scene. And the main objective was to capture Suzaku so that, Zero will kind of try to convince Suzaku to join his side. But obviously, after all the hard work, I think, so here you go. This is Euphemia. Uh, this is like a ceremony of turning Suzaku into the knight and all formality and stuff. And this is what happened at the Shikine Island. So Zero tried to talk to Suzaku, of course, and um, what happened, right? So let's see what happened first before we got to that picture. So Zero came up with an argument, which is actually a strong argument. Uh, is that you remember the mind reader Mao, right? So after that incident, um, Lelouch was aware of Suzaku's dark past already, and he made use of the dark past to guilt trip Suzaku. It, I'm not going to go too deep into it here, but uh, basically, Lelouch uh, said that because of Suzaku, he didn't say that because of Suzaku, but because of a greedy guy shot his own father, and because who is Mr. Genbu, who is the Prime Minister of Japan. So because of Suzaku killed his father, and because of that, the Japanese have to kind of surrender unconditionally. And although there was no bloodshed, right? But Japan became Area 11 and also as well as the colony of Britannia. And of course, because the Japanese they didn't get to fight to protect their country, they still, revolution still happen, and there are so many resistance and wars, and people still died. And so so that is the argument that Lelouch used to, kind of guilt trip Suzaku into joining his side. So Suzaku kind of understood. He understood zero reasoning about the Japanese losing their rights to fight after the death of his father. But he still didn't like the idea of war. So they had the same idea, right? So obviously they want the war to stop, but Suzaku don't want to fight. That's the difference between Lelouch and Suzaku. And Lelouch's idea was to fight against the Britannian system. Suzaku instead just don't want he just didn't want to have war. That's why they kind of couldn't work together. And what happened was that Snizel appeared and he interfered the conversation, and Suzaku was given the order to sacrifice himself and to keep Zero busy so that Snizel would like so that Snizel could fire the guns from his I think it was in kind of like a plane or something from so he approached in a plane from the sky, and he would just use his cannons or something to shoot and kill everyone from on the ground. So Suzaku, in order to keep Zero there, he also needs to sacrifice his life until Snizel came and, kill everyone, right? So that's where we got this picture. So basically Zero and Suzaku was kind of talking outside. They weren't exactly in the cabin, but but later on Zero was forced into the cabin, and Suzaku used the gun to make sure that Zero got captured and got stuck in there. And basically, Zero was trying to tell Suzuki that Suzuki is being used, right? The Britannian army is just using him, and they didn't respect his life and use him as a decoy for so many times already. But Suzaku didn't listen. He didn't want to work together with Lelouch because first he doesn't like the idea of war, and he thinks that a soldier has to follow his order. See, so that's what I mentioned in in the beginning of my analysis of of Suzaku, is that he's very like he's very obedient, right? So he's also okay with sacrificing his life in order to finish the mission. Maybe from the outside you think that is something good, right? A soldier should be obedient. But it also depends on a lot of stuff. So they should the soldier have the right to to save his life, or they should only obey the rules and the orders, even it is to throw away their life, right? Is it okay to do that? So it also raised some kind of a dilemma right there. And Suzaku probably just want to die. Basically, he usually someone who was told that, oh, you should really sacrifice your life so that we can make sure the plan happen. Will you just throw away your life like that? It's just like, okay, I'm just gonna die then. Nah, I think usually people would ask whether if it's okay to die, especially when you're not really fighting for some ideology. For example, if you voluntarily fight the enemies to protect your country, then sure, you know that that is the right thing to do, right? But here, you're just like you're kind of like in a situation where where you have to where you are told to just sacrifice yourself to capture Zero. But the problem here is Zero really the wrong person here, right? So it is very complicated because we also need to think about whether Britannia is really a good country or not. Is fighting for the system right now is the right thing to do? So in Code Geass story, Britannia is like a very dystopia, right? And there is a huge discrimination between Britannian and Japanese. So it's kind of like we will move towards the direction that we should fight against Britannia. And then that is the right direction. But Suzaku, he is a pacifier. He doesn't want to wage war. And be I think because he used to kill his father, he didn't he was acting on impulse. So and because of that, he really regretted his action, and he thinks that he should act based on some kind of system and regulation or something instead of just acting based on impulse. But the system that he's following, which is the Britannian government is also not perfect. And obviously, when we know about King Charles having Geass power and he doesn't respect people's life, he wants to create a world where the seas world will merge with the living world, basically pushing his own ideology onto other people. Would it be the right thing to sacrifice his life to protect Britannian system, right? So with that kind of argument, uh, that's the reason why the more I watch, the more I think that Suzaku is not in his right mind at all. But if you really try to understand his mindset as a normal human mindset, then I think it makes a lot of sense why he acted that way. Uh, so uh, so after because that Suzaku still wants to die, Lelouch has to use geese on him. So Lelouch uses geese to tell Suzaku to continue to live and don't throw away his life. And because of that, all of them managed to escape. So Snizel, he was about to use the guns and cannons to kill everyone there, but because Suzaku, he let Lelouch escape, so the Black Knights also managed to escape, so nobody died. And after at the Shikine Island, Suzaku, Euphemia, Karen, and Lelouch got kind of like they kind of got drifted through the sea. And I don't know why they got lost together, but they kind of drifted to the Kamine Island, where there's the portal to the sea world, right? And Lelouch got stuck with Euphemia, and Suzaku got stuck with Karen. That's why we have this picture here. There you go. So, so Suzaku and Karen had a talk, right? So, um, Suzaku, now he knew that Karen is a member of the Black Knights. That's why he tried to convince her to leave the Black Knight, right? They're just still being very nice and trying to use persuasion to change Karen's mind. And Suzaku, he actually shared with Karen that he was the one who killed his own father. One of his argument is like Zero is like my father. He thinks the entire world revolves around him, but that's why he can allow the blood of so many people to be spilled. So that's what Suzuki also thinks about the similarity between Zero and his father. Well, this is very debatable. This sentence is really debatable. So the problem here is that um so that's why he can allow the blood of so many people to be spilled. Is it true that Zero and Mr. Genbu thinks that the world revolves around them? In my opinion, I don't think that is necessarily the case. So if you look at Britannians and the Japanese situation, right? Um, the resistance, they started the revolution by themselves. So he didn't ignite the revolution. So the resistance was kind of like there for like before Lelouch managed to even become Zero. So you cannot say that because of Zero, made people die. So the thing is like the resistance was already there and they want to fight for the Japanese right, for the Japanese liberation, right? The same for Suzaku's father. It's true that he might order people to go to war, to fight, to order the Japanese soldiers to fight against Britannian to protect the country, right? But I think the people also want to fight. I mean, I'm not. That's the reason why if that's the reason why the resistance existed. The resistance wanted to fight Britannian in order to liberate Japan, right? So that's why I think when Britannia invaded Japan, I think the Japanese soldiers would pretty much likely go to war in order to protect their country. So I don't think Suzaku is right when he say Zero and his father only thinks that the world revolves around them. But that's just my opinion. I mean, I'm not sure why the sentence is there, but obviously it shows how Suzaku really thinks. And that's also important too in my analysis. So I do know one thing. What do results gained the wrong way leave you in the end? Just regret and an emptiness that has nowhere to go. So the thing here is that there is a huge plot twist and a similarity between Suzaku and Lelouch. Is that Suzaku he's against using the wrong methods to achieve the result. He's against that idea because it kind of reminds him of himself. He also thinks that his action of killing his father is wrong, which didn't stop the war. So he thinks that killing his father is the wrong method to achieve the result. So that's the reason why the peace couldn't be achieved. So because of that, he started thinking that using the wrong method will not be able to achieve anything. So basically, he saw zero in himself. So he thinks that Zero's method of doing things is also wrong in his opinion, and because of that, it will not be able to achieve anything. Uh, so I struggle on in shame, still looking for a reason to go on living. I'm such a disgrace. So Suzaku also felt responsible for his father's death, as he still finds a reason to go on living after all those years, right? Probably around 4 to 5 years or something, as he struggled from 10 years old when he killed his father until he reach a high school age, and he probably wanted to die a lot, but still he managed to live because he thinks that if he's just gonna die, then his father's death will be in vain, right? That's the reason why he tried to join the Britannian army and try to save people somehow. But obviously, regarding Britannians' ideology, it's kind of not a very good idea to just obey the orders, sacrificing himself. So actually, Suzaku also wanted to turn Britannia into a better nation, but his tendency of wanting to sacrifice his life is not going to help him get anywhere. Meanwhile, Lelouch, he might be killing people. He might use the Geass, but at least he's also moving towards a direction. He's making progress, and at least he didn't want to die, and not be able to achieve anything. But because Suzaku is there, Suzaku is like a symbol of righteousness and and also morality, right? So because I analyzed Suzaku, I got to understand that Lelouch also used the keys on people. He also killed people. And thanks to Suzaku, I was able to see the the bad parts in the luge. And I also got to see a clearer picture of humanity. It's that if I think that people who are not intelligent as the luge, who just join the army because they have to go to war, they will probably think like Suzaku. So Suzaku is like the representative of the lay people who aren't intelligent, who just happen. I'm sorry, it's not like not intelligent, but they aren't able to have a good picture of the political context. Lelouch was able to understand politics because one, he's intelligent, and two, he's also a royal member of the Britannian system. So he's kind of understands politics probably earlier than people who don't get to expose to the political background. So so for just normal people, normal soldiers, they might probably act like citizens. They'll just obey orders and, fight for the nation, right? That's the reason why it's very interesting and very necessary to analyze both Suzaku and Lelouch to see how they kind of like complement each other. And And I think that is uh oh right. After Lelouch used the geese on Suzaku, Suzaku managed to escape death, but he ended up being charged for defying orders. So obviously his order was to sacrifice himself, but because of Lelouch geese, he managed to escape death. But later on, the guards of the Britannian guards, they questioned him like, why did you defy the orders? It was lucky that Euphemia was there to defend Suzaku, and Snizel also forgave Suzaku because he doesn't want to get into a fight with Euphemia. Because Euphemia, obviously, she wouldn't want Suzaku to sacrifice his life. Okay, so now I would like to move on to the fight against the Japanese army powered by the Chinese. Um, I wonder if I have picture here. Oh, yes, I do. So first off, you might see here that, well, after listening to Lelouch's argument, right, saying that Suzaku stole the right of the Japanese to fight and protect their country, I think Suzaku understood that Lelouch got a point, and probably his resolve kind of like shaken as well. He probably didn't know what's the right thing to do. And he thinks that with such a weak determination to fight, he's not worthy of being Euphemia's knight. So he quitted being her knight. And so when during the fight, so against Suzaku, he was used by the Britannian system again. He was tasked to fight by himself, so to fight against the Japanese army, by the Chinese all by himself. And obviously he faced a lot of difficulties because I think during the fight, okay, there's this guy. So I think his name is Sawasaki. If I wasn't if I wasn't right, then I might apologize in advance. But like so Mr. Sawasaki, right? He used to be working under the Prime Minister Genbu, who is Suzaku's father, right? So this guy also knows Suzaku. So after Mr. Genbu was killed and Britannia took over Japan, Mr. Sawasaki he fled. He ran away to China, waiting for a chance to come back and fight the Britannia. And during the war, he kind of contacted Suzaku, and he also said the same thing like Lelouch, right? That Suzaku is fight he doesn't have a strong ideology, and Japan the Japanese they didn't get the right to fight against the Britannian, and because of his comments, Suzaku lost focus and he was at the disadvantage in the fight. um to the point that he was low, so the robot, the Lancelot that he was using, it went out of energy. And during that moment Euphemia kind of like connected to the robot, and she encouraged Suzaku's spirit, and she also told him not to die as well. So I'm not going to tell in detail what she said to him, but basically she told him not to die and not to blame himself for his father's death. And because of that, and Lelouch also had also appeared, and uh during this fight, so Lelouch was in this big robot here, the black one, and Suzuki is like in the white one, the Lancelot. And this is like the energy filler. It's like a battery for the robots. So Lelouch kind of like he thought of a plan. He planned to uh, assist Suzaku in this fight in order to gain more credibility, right? And reputation that, oh, I'm from the Black Knight and I am supporting the Britannian system right here. And basically to gain more recognition by the people. And he came to give the energy filler to Lancelot, which is out almost out of energy. And Suzaku he agreed to accept he accepted Lelouch's help, and both of them went and fight against the Japanese army. And yes, and they managed to win. So you can see that there's a great change in behavior. Uh, let's see. However, he he almost, I think, Suzaku, probably he probably changed his behavior due to the Geass command from the Luch. So the thing here is that after if I'm correct, after Euphemia encouraged him to live on, he still kind of felt like he needs to sacrifice his life to fight in the fight to protect the Britannian system, right? But because the after effect of the Luch Geese still working, so Suzaku kind of feels like he has to live on. He cannot die. So that's the reason why he accepts the energy filler from Zero. So I think both Euphemia's encouragement and Lelouch Geese kind of work to keep Suzaku alive, But I think the Geass power kind of like has more influence right there. Okay. So when Suzaku quit being the knight, he said, even so, I was never punished. I killed my father, even so, I was never punished. I just live on like nothing happened. Why others die in duty and the 11 suffer on the side, I guess special treatment. So basically, he has a very conflicting mindset right there. So Suzaku, he thinks for the Britannians and he also thinks for the 11s as well. And he has the tendency of blaming himself a lot. Like it's true that it's war, right? So that's why many people die, the and it's not his fault that the Japanese are suffering, but he was just blaming himself that everything is like his fault or something. And he used that as an excuse to like sacrifice his life to for the benefits of the other people. But that is not gonna help him change Britannia. So, but you can see that there's a great change in Suzaku's behavior. Like, obviously, Suzaku, he was ordered to fight against Zero, but because of Euphemia's influence on him and also Zero's Geass command, that's the reason why he even agreed to work together with Zero. Well, after that is the school's festival, right? So after a few tense fights and events, there would be some some kind of like fun times, fun moments in order for people to relax themselves and enjoy. I think that's just how life works anyway. It's just like after you do a lot of school assignments, you will also need time to take a break. It is kind of like something natural. It doesn't have to be like because this is an anime and things have to be like that. Like we already have a bunch of tense fights already, so we should have some relaxing events to help the the people, the anime watcher become more relaxing. But it's kind of the same thing in real life anyway. So after agreeing with Euphemia to protect the people important to them, he didn't obey the rule too strictly, but rather used softer methods such as persuasion, if not in battle. So, let's see if I have the. Okay, I don't have that one then. So, for the schools festival, um, basically, after understanding Euphemia's will, now Euphemia, she knows exactly what she wants already. So she wants to build a world where the people who are important to her don't have to die, right? So, and it's also that people got to live happily in that world. And obviously, Suzuki, he agreed to that mindset as well. And you can see that there's progress, right? Suzuki now he knew what kind of world that he wants to create. And he also becomes more flexible now, right? So when he knows that Karen is a member of the Black Knights, but when he encounters her at school, he tries to keep the peace between them and just want to persuade her to leave the Black Knights and to avoid war instead of trying to pick a fight or capture her. And remember at the school festival, right? I did mention in the analysis of Lelouch is that at the event, Princess Euphemia, she already knows what she wants to do, and her idea was to establish an administered zone that will facilitate the equality between the Britannian and the Japanese. However, Lelouch he was against this idea because he thought that it's not gonna work, right? So and that led to Euphemia's death incident. So so I'm just gonna go briefly of what happened was that uh Zero kind of have like a meetup with Euphemia. So they just met alone, right? And Euphemia really wanted the good thing for the Japanese, and Zero he also kind of like agreed to her idea already, but he unintentionally used the geese on Euphemia and ordered her to kill the Japanese. So please feel free to watch my analysis of the Lelouch again to have a deeper understanding of what's happening. But but because because of the unintentional use of geese, Euphemia she killed all I think she killed a lot of the Japanese audience who went to the ceremony of declaring that the administered zone will be open. So many of the audience were killed, and and after that, Euphemia was shot by Lelouch, right? So in the beginning, Suzaku felt grateful to Euphemia that she decided to establish the special zone for the Japanese. So I'm thankful for this, truly thankful. Yeah, see, so everything was kind of like starting to look up there. Like it is a very possible option. So it's true that the area, even though there is an area of equal rights, it's the reason why Lelouch thought that it is not a very good idea is because King Charles he would not really be happy about the idea, right? Because what he wants is the strong fight the weak, right? So of course he stated clearly that he doesn't believe in equality, right? So this area is like exactly the opposite of what King Charles believed. So that's the reason why Lelouch doesn't think that the idea is gonna work. But if you know the good, which is Euphemia and Suzaku, would collaborate with the evil, right? The evil, but also wants to create a happy world, which is Zero. If they work together, I'm pretty sure something good will happen. I think so, at least. It's like this, I still believe that destruction is not the only choice, right? Obviously, the key's power is really strong, and if you use it effectively, you can minimize a lot of death. And obviously, the collaboration between Euphemia and Lelouch would be quite of an ideal, right? Even Zero agreed to the plan, but obviously things didn't go that way. We don't get what we want. So, um, and um, and when the uproar happened, right? When Euphemia was under the geese and she went around killing the Japanese, um, and what Princess Euphemia did, don't be ridiculous. Obviously, Suzaku wouldn't believe that Euphemia would hold a gun and shoot at the Japanese, right? Well, she was obviously just under the Geass. He refused to believe that Euphemia ordered the killing of the Japanese and came right to her rescue after she got shot by Lelouch. And yes, Suzaku was there. He witnessed that Zero shot Euphemia. At that time, Suzaku still didn't know that Lelouch was Zero, but he kind of had a feeling. Uh, that's the reason why he before the Black Rebellion happened, is that after the mass shooting, um, Lelouch kind of declared war on Britannia, right? And anyone he basically create started a rebellion, which is called the Black Rebellion incident. Is there would be a fight between the Britannian and the Black Knights. So before the event of the Black Rebellion, um, Suzaku he used Euphemia's phone number or maybe her cell phone to call Lelouch. And he said that is there anyone you hate so much that you want to kill them? I used to think that it was wrong to think that way, that unless you fought following rules, it was just murder. Yeah. But now hatred has taken control of me. I'm fighting now to kill someone. Yeah. So thank you, Lelouch, for the last 7 years. So basically, it's kind of hinting that Suzaku was kind of figuring out that Lelouch was Zero already. So here he also stated that he basically changed now, right? So wanting he changed from holding back during the fight. So before, at all of the incidents, the Neritas incident, the Sunken Hotel incident, Suzaku held back a lot during the fight. That's the reason why Zero managed to get away, right? But now he doesn't hold back in the fight anymore. And he's even telling Zero that he's coming to kill Zero, right? That hatred has taken a control of him. And and he also said that unless you fought following the rules, it was just murder. So yeah, that kind of like supported the argument that I said before, was that he was feeling guilty of killing his father out of impulse, right? So that if he just kills someone without being ordered to kill, that is just murder, right? It's not right to do it. So that's why maybe because of that he started joining the Britannian military in order to at least find kind of like a set of rules or thinking about what is right to follow. But yeah, that's just my idea. He doesn't want to repeat the same mistake. And yeah, he called Lelouch to let him know that he would come for the kill, stating that he might figure out Zero's identity. So so there is kind of uh like another change in the relationship between Suzuki and Lelouch, right? So their relationship started out pretty well until the point that Euphemia got killed. And Suzaku, he also didn't get to see Lelouch much during the first season because Lelouch would just disappear from school because he has to work with the Black Knights. But obviously Suzaku didn't know that Lelouch was Zero, right? And Lelouch, of course, he also didn't know that Suzaku was in the robot. Lancelot was working for Britannia, and they had been fighting all along, right? So first of all, they kind of trust each other, and during this during the series, during the season one, they started to drift away from each other, right? They have to work on because whenever Zero appears, Suzuku also needs to leave school and to fight Zero. And they kind of drifted away, busy doing their own stuff. And then their relationship finally worsened during the Euphemia's death incident. And the same thing could go for the other friends at the student council. So Lelouch was also very close to his friends at the student council, right? But he always has to leave and to work for the Black Knights and stuff. And kind of like the same for Suzaku as well. But even though they don't get to see each other a lot, the student council friends was the they were still very nice towards Suzuki and Lelouch. Well, the relationship still has a lot of drastic change later, especially after Zero kind of lost his memory. Okay, so this is Euphemia's so this is when Euphemia she got shot and Suzaku brought her to the medics. Even though she got treated, she couldn't make it. Um, and during I think when Euphemia is being treated, this is Vivi, obviously, the devil here. And he came and told Suzaku that Lelouch had the Geass power. Yeah, so obviously, uh, uh, Suzaku, uh, Suzaku didn't know that Lelouch was Zero yet, but he knew that Zero has the Geass power. So it kind of makes things worse, right? So Suzaku, first he thinks that Zero was just doing things by using the wrong methods. He's also causing death. But now, probably VV was kind of make like a bad impression out of Zero was that he probably said something like Geese has the power to make people listen to his order, right? So Suzaku might misunderstood that Zero used his power to control the Black Knights, basically villainize his image even more. And that's also added to his anger and hatred towards Zero as well. And here is Suzaku using Euphemia's phone number to call Lelouch, which this is quite tense, right? Because this is when, because Lelouch also felt responsible for killing Euphemia already, and he was very surprised when he got a call from Euphemia, who already died. All right. However, remember at the end of season one, right? At the Black Rebellion, Lelouch already he kind of like got sunken, he got engulfed by the darkness already. He became way much more sinister, right? He felt responsible for Euphemia's death, but he also admitted that he's using he's using evil to fight the bigger evil, and he could only see that destruction has to happen in order for a new world to be created. So I think the next one would be, oh, another thing is that we probably think that Suzaku wouldn't be lying, like he's a upright person, right? But obviously he also lies as well, just like any other person. But this time he told Euphemia that the ceremony of introducing the equality zone is successful, just to just to make her feel better. But that's when actually in season one, Suzuku is still portrayed as a very upright person. Basically, he hides his identity of someone who works for the army, but he doesn't exactly lie. He basically just avoids telling the truth. That's all. He didn't just use the lie to use other people. And even if he does lie, for example, he lies to Euphemia, right? But it was for her sake. Yeah. So so that's also something that it's like a white line, right? To make people feel better. And King Charles, he would want like the world to be like no lies, you have to tell the truth. If Suzaku told Euphemia the truth this time, I think Euphemia would die of the shock. So, so at least before she passed away, she kind of like knew that oh the area was a success, and at least she would feel calm when before she passed away, right? All right. Okay. So, now I would like to move on to the Black Rebellion incident. So during this incident, this is the last event of season one. Um, so although there's no order for Suzaku to go after Zero, he deliberately decided to go catch Zero himself. So what happened was that, yeah, this one. So this was when this is Lloyd and Cecile, right? So they work for the special police for police force, and they're also the colleagues of Suzuki. But so Lloyd was like telling Suzuki like you are not going anywhere. You're not going after Zero because you don't have any order to do so, right? But Suzaku basically he punched Lloyd in the face in order to take the key to the landlord. So basically, right now Suzaku has a change in behavior, right? He doesn't just obey the orders blindly anymore, but it's not for anything good either. He's basically just having hatred to himself right now. He wants to go out there to kill Zero for his own satisfaction, and that is not exactly a positive change. He does change in a way that he doesn't just obey obey the system blindly, but this is due to an outburst of emotion rather than rational analysis, right? So right now, Suzuki, just because of hatred, he disobeyed the order and went out there to kill Zero. So basically, he's just very angry and probably he wasn't thinking calmly. And I wonder, I also had that in the paragraph. Yeah. So so his change in behavior, right? Going after to kill Zero showed that his principal took a drastic change. shifting from focus on the means of doing things to achieving results. So it means that he just wants to go out there to kill Zero, to avenge Euphemia's death, and instead of, obeying orders not to kill him. However, this change was based on emotional factors rather than rational analysis. And yeah, Zero's in Tokyo. I'm going to finish him with my own hands. Where's Zero? I'll kill him. Yeah, so and he fought with strong killing intent without caring about casualties like before. So right now, he doesn't really mind killing the people, maybe the Black Knights even. He was also fought against Karen, and he didn't really hold back like before. And Karen almost lost the fight, and Lelouch has to interfere. And And remember during this incident, Lelouch chose the headquarter of the Black Knights as the Ashford High School. So basically, even his student council friends were there, but he actually chose the school as the headquarter in order to use it as like a shield, as a decoy to protect himself from being attacked by the Britannian force, specifically Suzaku. That's the reason why Suzaku said, Zero, you trick people to the very end, you betray them. So it's kind of true here. It's like, as I've said before, during the Black Rebellion, Lelouch also changed for the worse. For example, he used Dalton, who's also works for the royal system to uh, to stop Cornelia, and then Lelouch managed to defeat Cornelia because Dalton interfered, and then he also killed Dalton after after Dalton finished his mission, right? So that was and also Lelouch used the school as a shield. Um, so and told after Vivi told Suzaku that Zero has the geese, Suzaku became more enraged and thinking that Zero used his geese to trick others. So there are many layers of misunderstanding, right? Of lack of communication. Mm. Yeah, you get to hide in the shadows while others take all the blame. So it's kind of like when Lelucci used the geese on he used the geese on the people, right? Even though he even though he didn't use the geese on his allies, such as the Black Knights, he used the geese on the enemies, right? And for example, Jeremiah, he was under the geese and he released Suzaku, right? But because of that, he almost got killed by the other Britannians guards. And and also many people has to die because Lelouch used geese on them. Okay, so I wonder if I miss any. All right, so this is when Cornelia, right? Cornelia was kind of injured, and um this is when Lelouch finally defeated Cornelia, and he was about to capture Cornelia as a hostage, right? But Cici, she told Lelouch that Nunnally, right? His sister was kind of kidnapped, and I think Vivi was the one who kidnapped his sister. And because of that, Lelouch has to leave the fight and went to look for his sister. And Cornelia, she told Suzaku to go after Zero and capture him. And this is the main event. Yeah, so Suzaku, and there's also Karen here. So, uh, the reason why Karen was here was that Ogi told her to run after Zero to find out the reason why Zero decided to leave the Black Knights and uh, go after his sister, right? And what happened was, yeah. So after Cornelia told Suzaku to catch Zero at Kamine Island, Suzaku discovered that Zero was Lelouch and felt disappointed. So basically, according to CC's the instruction, Lelouch went to the Kamine Island to find his sister. But before he managed to find his sister, Suzaku and Karen managed to catch up to him. And Suzaku uh, kind of like know that finally found out that Lelouch was Zero. So yeah, I wanted to believe in you, but you were lying to us, to me, to Euphemia, even to Nunnally, right? So this is where this is where a lot of bad bad images of Zero and Lelouch kind of like layered onto each other. There's also many room for misunderstanding right there, such as Euphemia's death and the power of Geass, right? Suzaku still didn't fully understand what was going on. But obviously some of his comments ring true, such as Lelouch was lying to a lot of people and even to the Black Knights. And if you and Yuffie had joined forces, the world could have been better or something, right? Yeah. Um, and the thing here is that Suzaku also mentioned like he told he told the Lelouch that he should have collaborated with Euphemia, right? But Lelouch just said that, oh, it's just the story of the past already. You know, like he just brushed it off like that. He didn't bother explaining why Euphemia died in the first place. And because of that, um, Suzaku, he lost his cool, right? Like, um, and uh, and he said, and he also said some very mean things. Like in the end, you would betray the entire world, like it has betrayed you, and nothing that happens now is any of your business, and your existence is a mistake. Yeah, so basically, it's just like in a fight, right? In an argument between friends, for example. Um, if we don't come to like, if we don't explain ourselves and try to communicate, we'll just argue for like forever. There's no end to argument. Uh, and Lelouch, he probably thinks that he has done so many bad things already and he cannot explain the reason behind his action anymore. So probably even explaining wouldn't help. I also mentioned about this in the analysis of Lelouch. It's like for example, if he does try to explain, right? So for example, he said like, I didn't use the keys on Euphemia on purpose. but because of my Geass power, it went out of control because I use it too much already. Um, it just it's unintentionally happened. That's why Euphemia did that. But the problem here is that after Lelouch killed Euphemia, he made a bad impression of her image, right? Of her action to kind of like find to support the reason that the Japanese should fight the Britannian because Euphemia is somebody who cannot be trusted, just like the Britannian system itself, right? So basically, even if Lelouch explained all of his action, it cannot be reversed, right? Euphemia died, even if Lelouch unintentionally used the Geass power on Euphemia, he still made a bad impression of her image to support his army, right? That action is already done. You cannot making excuses out of it. So probably even explaining that wouldn't really help either. So that's probably the reason why Lelouch decided not to explain. But brushing the event off didn't really help either. And misunderstanding kept building up as Zero didn't explain things clearly, leading Suzaku to think of Lelouch as a person who used others for his own goal. So, if a villain doesn't defend himself, then we wouldn't know. We wouldn't know what happened, right? And we can only see the bad thing in them. Yeah. So, this is the this is the last event of season one. So uh to wrap up, uh at the end of season one, Suzaku discovered that Lelouch was Zero, with an impression that Lelouch had been lying to him and to everybody about his identity. And he also thought that Lelouch only took advantage of other people for his own goal, that Lelouch sank too deep into darkness, and his Geass power should not have existed. So at first, Suzaku had a bad impression about Zero methods of doing things, but he still thought that the consequences were still within acceptance to an extent. After collaborating with Lelouch to fight against the Japanese army powered by China, he even softened up towards Karen, who's a member of the Black Knights, right? However, after the incident of Euphemia's death, along with Lelouch's behaviors turning for the worse, and Lelouch didn't even bother to explain his actions and Euphemia's death, Suzaku probably only saw Lelouch's worst image and ended up resenting him. So this is like so after watching season one, right, we can see that Suzaku is still somebody who's very confused and conflicted with his own ideology. So he wants to build a world that is peaceful, right? But he doesn't know how to get there yet. When he actually, when he finally started to find hope in Euphemia, right? So Euphemia wanting to establish the zone of equal rights between the Britannian and the Japanese, something good finally begins to happen. Um, Unexpected things happen, right? And everything crumbled and went for the worse. And obviously nobody wanted that. But Suzaku, from what I see, is that he's still struggling a lot in life. he's still a teenager who has just like Lelouch, right? He's still a teenager and his feelings is still not completely grown up yet. He's he's still very soft and has a lot of struggling with fighting his own ideology, his internal conflicts, and trying to find the path that he must walk on to create the world that he hopes for, right? Especially after the shock of Euphemia's death. Everything just reached the climax, right? I think this is actually the true climax of the whole series. Is that when is that when two completely different ideologies clash with each other in order to basically they are working towards the same goal, right? Both Lelouch and Suzaku, but they want a world without war, but both of them they have different ideologies, different methods of doing things. And for Lelouch, he prioritized the results. For Suzaku, he prioritized the methods. So that is the story, uh, and who will be the one who is more correct, right? Then we will know after we watch season two. So I suppose this is the end of my sharing of part two. So now I'm gonna stop the sharing and thank you very much for watching the video until now, and hopefully I will get to see everyone again in my sharing of part three. Okay, have a nice day.